Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Got an exciting episode for you. As we know, now Thursdays are wild card episodes where anything could happen. And today, we had a good idea where we want to look at this rookie class. We want to do it in a creative way. So what Connor and I are going to do for you here today is we're going to go through the top 20 picks of this past NFL draft and reorder it without team needs into it. Just kind of a big board of where we would draft these players 7 games in. So it's a little bit of a check on what we thought of them pre-draft and including what we have already seen from them as pros. I think there's a lot more giving credit than there is punishing guys, but we'll see. Connor, I'm excited for this little exercise. Going to give us a good look at some of the guys that were picked at the top of last year's class.
Me too. It's kind of a unique way to do a rookie reaction show instead of just saying, oh, this rookie's actually played well in week 4. It's a big picture of the top 20. So if a player that you think should have went in the top 20, they don't qualify for this, unfortunately.
Right,
it's only the
right.
players that went in the top 20, reshuffling, some overreactions, some instant reactions. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and you and I will go back and forth in chunks of 5 until we get to the end.
Yeah, I can already see people now when Tariq Woolen isn't on either of our lists.
It's always Tariq Woolen.
They're just going to be like, where's Tariq Woolen? But it's only the players that were picked in the top 20. We had to cut it somewhere. So maybe at the end of the show, we might talk about some guys that weren't in the top 20 that we would say we would put up in that 20 at this point, but wanted to keep it organized. So we'll go from descending order. We'll start at 20 where we will work our way up to number 1. Of course, we've got to keep the element of surprise to keep you guys listening to the podcast. But I figure, Connor, a good way to do this is just to remind people who went in those top 20 picks and where they went, the teams that selected them. Number 1 overall, of course, Trayvon Walker. Number 2 for the Detroit Lions, it was Aiden Hutchinson. For the Jags, of course, picking number 1 overall with Walker. Houston Texans at 3, they went Derek Stingley. Jets at 4 went Sauce Gardner. Giants at 5, Kayvon Thibodeau. Panthers at 6, Ike Ekwonu. Giants, again, at 7, they took Evan Neal. Falcons at 8, they took Drake London. Seattle Seahawks at 9, they took Charles Cross. Jets again at number 10, they took Garrett Wilson. Saints at 11, Chris Olave. Lions at 12, again, they took Jameson Williams. Interesting to see where he's going to be on this list because he hasn't played yet, but we both loved him. Eagles at 13, they went Jordan Davis. Ravens at 14, Kyle Hamilton. Texans at 15, Kenyon Green. Commanders at 16, Jahan Dotson. 17, Chargers, Zion Johnson. 18, Titans, Treylon Burks. 19 is the Saints again with Trevor Penning. And then 20, Pittsburgh Steelers. We're sneaking a quarterback in here. We're getting Kenny Pickett. He just makes the last cutoff there. So we will be reordering those 20 players. And like I said, it's not like whoever we're going to have at number 1 overall, it's not like we're saying, oh, the Jags should have taken this player at number 1 overall, because we're not taking team needs and context into it. Essentially, we're revising the big board, if you will, revising the rankings of what we thought of these players, just with a little splash of NFL experience in there. So, Connor, I'll let you start. We'll go 20 to 16 to get the first 5 out there.
So 20 for me was Trevor Penning. I don't think anyone will be very surprised by that.
Yeah.
19, Kenyon Green.
Okay.
18, Treylon Burks.
Okay.
17, Kyle Hamilton.
Oh.
16, Kenny Pickett.
Okay. All right. So funny enough, I have Trevor Penning at 20. I have Kenyon Green at 19. I have Treylon Burks at 18. I have Kenny Pickett at 17, and then I have Zion Johnson at 16. So
okay.
I have Hamilton a lot higher. Where was Hamilton pre-draft for you?
8th.
Okay, he was 4th for me. So I think maybe I'm
Well, we're gonna naturally do that.
I'm hoping that he's gonna be right. I've got to hold on.
I'm gonna do that too.
So, well, I think there will be plenty of back and forth here. Trevor Penning, we haven't seen yet. We saw him in the preseason. We saw him during training camp, but he's been battling with a pretty bad case of turf toe, so he has not played at all this season. It makes sense that he's number 20. He was a lot lower on my personal big board.
That's what it comes down to, too.
And I know that he was lower on yours as well. We were kind of lower on him than the consensus was. Kenyon Green, I think, has been playing okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. But not better than like a Zion Johnson was. So I got to have him all the way down here. I mean, I'll let you take over though, because you were listing them off. What are your thoughts on these guys that you got here on the first group?
Yeah, I think it's self-explanatory on the bottom three, right? Penning was a guy I viewed as not a first-round player, and he's been hurt, so he fell one spot. He went 19th. He's here. Kenyon Green, I don't think Kenyon Green had a late start to this summer, and I think he has not been great. I think he has particularly struggled in pass pro, but I mean, once again, it's not the end of the world. Burks getting hurt. It felt like Burks was starting to turn the corner a little bit, and then he got hurt, so that was disappointing after he had a up and down camp. And then I think the one people want to hear about probably is Kyle Hamilton at 17. It's just tough to draft a safety in the top 20, and I don't think he can really cover, honestly. He's somebody that needs to play close to the line of scrimmage. Looks good as a blitzer. Really good as a blitzer, looks good downhill. I just have significant concerns about any coverage ability with him, and that's been the issue with him. I know Ravens fans are very disappointed so far, and it seems like he's gotten better in October than he was in September, and I still think he could be a good player in this league. But, I mean, Trevor, there was a time where we talked about Kyle Hamilton as a elite talent, one of the best talents of the draft, all these things, and
that's where I ranked him. Yeah,
I just think his coverage problems that I saw on tape at times in college are it's not going to get easier in the NFL.
You know, I am not going to be nearly as hard on Kyle Hamilton. He's not going to be ranked. He's not going to be ranked fourth again for me. I did bring him down a little bit. I can understand why he's a little bit lower. Actually, when I did my first, I'll say, rough draft of this exercise, I did have Hamilton closer to 15. I think I originally had him at 14, but then went back, looked at my pre-draft rankings. All right, well, you can hear my dog that's guarding the apartment from nobody who's probably breaking in. No, I thought that Kyle Hamilton could be a player who had a ton of versatility, but I always figured that like the coverage was going to be the thing that took the longest for him. And when you look at his snap counts, hold on, let me find it here. 42 snaps in the box, 41 snaps at slot corner, and then 82 snaps at free safety. So defensive back is so difficult to play anyways. They're using him in so many different areas. He was going to struggle. He was always going to struggle during this time period of where are we going to use him best? Where can we get the best out of him? Okay, can you hear him really loud?
I keep talking while you go check on the dog. Okay. Bingo.
Yeah, you should do that.
I keep talking while Trevor goes and checks on the dog. I think with Kyle Hamilton, part of the problem. And once again, this is like early reaction. So this isn't, if Kyle Hamilton was dead last on this list of 20, you kind of sit there and go, what's going on for a guy that a lot of people viewed as one of the best players in the draft? I think that I agree with Trevor. The usage is, there was kind of a narrative around him, or maybe a mirage, that he was this unicorn safety. And I just don't think that was true in a sense of you're going to have him play traditional free safety, roam around, or be an eraser with, various skill talent in the slot. I just think that him playing in the box and living downhill and playing fast north and south and obviously being a weapon as a blitzer and not giving a lot of ground as a run defender are things that he's really good at and ways he can make impact plays. If you ask him to get out in space and run with shiftier slots or even run the seam with some of the more gifted, physical, athletic straight line tight ends, he's going to find himself in trouble at times. And any young safety would, but I think it's, obviously been highlighted for him because of how highly he was regarded.
Connor, I agree completely with everything that you said. Blind.
That's amazing.
Shooting blind. No, I appreciate you. You doing that.
There's no problem at all.
I've got my little pup here with me, obviously, as people wanted to know. And look, he's the star of the show. He wants to get on the podcast.
He won.
He wanted to get his draft takes out, and I can't blame him for it. So do I here on this show.
Not a fan of Kyle Hamilton. Apparently.
No, clearly not a fan of Kyle Hamilton. All right, so I'll get to some other thoughts that I have on Kyle Hamilton when I bring him up a little bit higher on this list, but versatility is something that I figured would be what we love in a scouting report, and also something that we punish him for, if you will, his rookie season, because that's just kind of what always happens. We love to praise versatility, but then when you get to the NFL, it's tougher to stay that versatile. You've got to learn a lot of different things.
That's right.
We'll get to that at some point. Let's go 15 to 11. Who you got 15 to 11? So we can talk about these guys next.
Yeah, so 15 to 11. And for Kenny Pickett at 16, for me, we barely gotten to see him play. I think the numbers look worse than how he's played, personally. He's had some really bad luck interceptions. I think it's a hard part of the schedule. I was shocked they decided to insert him when they did. So Kenny Pickett's a big TBD. 15 for me, Jahan Dotson. 14 for me, Evan Neal. 13 for me, Derek Stingley. 12, Jameson Williams. Okay. Because Jameson Williams hasn't played, so I left him exactly where he got drafted. There's nothing to say. I still really like Jameson Williams and think he's actually exactly what the Lions need, which is a really good sign.
Yeah,
and then 11.
No, I'm just kidding.
11, Trayvon Walker, which that might sound bad because he went number 1. I think I had Trayvon Walker 20th in the draft, so he's actually played better than I expected, to be fair to Trayvon Walker. I had him 20th.
Wow. Okay, now we're getting into some difference. This is good. This is good here. 15, I have Jahan Dotson, so I wondered if we were just going to stay shot for shot the whole time. 14, I have Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is basically exactly kind of what I thought that he was going to be. Honestly, could probably have him a little bit higher in this list. I think he finished 11th or 12th on my big board, so I could have him a little bit higher. But there's some other guys that I had a little lower than Jordan Davis, specifically the wide receivers that are already showing out that I think have been fantastic that I have above him. I've got Garrett Wilson at 13. I know Garrett Wilson was below Jordan Davis on my initial big board, so I've got him one spot above Davis. And then I got Chris Olave at 12. I've got Drake London at 11. So I just go boom, boom, boom. I go those top 3 wide receivers right there. And
I like it.
I think that that's not a slight on any of these guys at all whatsoever. I know people might look at that and be like, dude, Drake got drafted 8 overall. You know, you're putting him a little bit lower, but I've got to stay true to kind of where I had them in my rankings as well. And versus some of the other players that are a little bit higher, I think this is pretty fair for them. So I've got those 3 wide receivers right there. It sounds like you're a little bit higher. Dude, dig into Evan Neal being a little bit further down, and then I'll have you get into Derek Stingley as well. That's somebody that I want to have a conversation about.
So I had Evan Neal as the 4th overall player in the draft.
Man, you got him this far down?
And as the 2nd ranked offensive tackle for me behind Icky.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not worried in a sense, but I think any Giants fan will tell you it was not a good, smooth start for Evan Neal. I think he's had significant balance issues, especially in pass protection, where he was not a strength of that offensive line. Now, Andrew Thomas has been superb for the Giants, and I think, you know, it's hard to say that one tackle playing so well covers for the other because they're on opposite sides, but I think that more so is the Giants' line isn't a disaster, and it usually is. So they're seeing returns. And I don't think Neal's been terrible. I actually think he's played his best football for the Giants in October. But I thought over summer and transitioning into September, there were significant balance issues once again in pass pro, where he just didn't look comfortable. He was getting beat. He was giving up pressure. So I don't know. I don't know if I expected him to be a absolute dominant force from day one, but I did expect him to be better than what he's shown. Now, the positives are I think they have a really good staff there that they're going to get the best out of him. And playing tackle as a rookie in the NFL is a brutal, brutal way to be thrown to the fire for anybody.
It's hard for me to be too hard on Evan Neal. I had him as my number 5 overall prospect because I look on the other side of the offensive line and I see the example of what Evan Neal could be, right? Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas struggled early on in his rookie season, and now he is the highest graded offensive tackle that we have at PFF. He's playing like one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. So I didn't have Neal this low, but it has been, it's been disappointing. Well, disappointing may be the wrong word. He hasn't been great. I think that's probably just the way that you put it. Whether you want to say that's disappointing or not, I think to your point, it's really difficult to come in and play offensive tackle in the NFL right away, especially as a rookie right out of the gate, no matter how talented you are. So I didn't have him quite this low. He's in this next group of players that we're going with. What about Stingley? You got Stingley, what was he, 12? Is that where you had him?
He was 13th.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, I had Stingley 17th on my big board.
Okay, there we go. Therein lies the major difference.
This is improvement. what I don't understand when I watch Stingley is the Texans took Stingley 3rd overall.
Oh, brother, don't get me started.
The Texans are in Tampa 2 and cover 3 all the time. Well, like, this isn't really about Derek Stingley. I feel like I could not put him higher than this because you drafted Derek Stingley with a top 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
When you draft a corner to do that, I'm assuming you're going to give plenty of man looks that you're expecting this guy to be an eraser at the next level that creates mismatches for the other 10 guys in the defense. Cough, cough. That's what the Jets do with Sauce Gardner quite a bit. Jets have transitioned from a ton of zone to plenty more man wrinkled in, and we'll get there. Stingley doesn't really get the opportunity to do this. So I like that he's been really stingy in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
He's given up his yards and catches against some good players. That's fine. It's not really a panic with me, but I can't justify him being ahead of all these other guys with what they ask him to do.
I have the stats up here real quick for Stingley.
It's insane.
51.9 coverage grade this year, 42 targets, 28 catches allowed, 22 first downs allowed. And this is the part that really, irks people who wish that they were using Stingley a little bit differently. 54.8% open target percentage. Only reason it's over 50% is because they're having him play off, right? He's playing a lot of zone stuff. He's not allowed to get his...
that. He hated it at LSU. Everybody knew it.
It's so silly. So it's funny where you say like, I can't bring him any higher because of that. I had Stingley as my number 1 overall player in last year's class, and I'm not going to fault him too much for not being able to play well in a system that he shouldn't even run in. I get it. Look, Lovie Smith, he's been around the game a long time. He's a well-respected head coach. Obviously a Tampa 2 guy, a more zone coverage guy at heart. I'm not saying I'm not out here saying that Lovie Smith's a bad coach, but you need to play to the strengths of your players, right? Like you said with Sauce Gardner, like when you have a certain trend of what you're doing and then you get a guy who gives you an ability that nobody else does that can change your defense for the better, guess what you got to start doing? Guess what? It's your job as a coach to do something different, to change it to what is most advantageous. And the Texans just haven't really done that with Stingley.
Why not take Thibodeau at that point then, if this is who you are?
That was what was weird about it, is it's like, did you make this pick thinking that Lovie Smith just wasn't going to be the coach very long? Because Lovie
feels that way.
Lovie's never been, I feel like Lovie has never been that kind of coach to run a defense that gets the most out of Stingley going 3 overall.
Dude.
Just a little strange.
It's perplexing.
Didn't they say they'd play him in man a lot?
I'm pretty sure.
Lovie came out after the draft and he was like, yeah, I think he called Stingley after they drafted him and said, I hope you're ready to guard the other team's number 1 receiver. And Stingley was like, hell yeah, brother. And then that's not what
it was a well-known thing in the scouting community before the draft that Stingley, you can see the demeanor and how locked in he was when they were not only playing well, but when he was asked to go out there and run all day in the hip pocket and man coverage compared to when they asked him to play zone. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew it. And everybody knew if you take him with a top 15 pick, you better be a team that caters to his strengths so he stays locked in. And I'm not saying he hasn't been locked in.
Right.
But I bumped him up 4 spots.
Appreciate you bumping him up, getting it a little closer to what I had, which is number 1 overall. But yeah, when I do prospect interviews with a lot of these guys, like for example, I think of Devon Witherspoon, who I just got to sit down with, who is the corner from Illinois. And he talked about how much fun he has when a man coverage call gets called in. And he knows that it's him on an island. And like, that's the stuff he lives for. That's what gives him the most pride. That's what's going to get the dog out of him on every single play. And I feel like Stingley is that same way. And they're just not really allowing him to be as valuable as he can possibly be for a pick where number 3 overall is high. That is high to select a corner. But you pick that kind of whatever. Now I'm going in circles. I still have yet to talk about Stingley
get there.
when we get to him, and I can go back in circles about it. Last one.
What did you even have?
As what? What do you mean?
The end of this section. Did you ever finish?
Yeah, I did. I had Jahan Dotson.
So long.
Jahan Dotson at 15. And you could pick out one of these players and we could talk about where they are in my list. Jahan Dotson's at 15. I had Jordan Davis at 14. And then I had the 3 wide receivers. I go Garrett Wilson, I go Chris Olave, and then I go Drake London. So those are
the one I drastically disagree with is Jordan Davis, but the other counter argument is that he doesn't play enough snaps. I just think he's awesome.
Oh, so you got him a lot higher. Where did you
have Jordan Davis in my top 10 in this exercise.
Yeah.
On my final big board, I had him 12th.
I think I had him like 11. So I'm honestly probably lower on him than I should be. Jordan Davis should probably be higher on this list now that I'm even looking at it.
It happens.
But it was hard to put him above the receivers because all the receivers are doing exactly what they should be.
Yeah, I was very high on the receivers.
You know, and you haven't even named the receivers yet. So
what did you think of me having Trayvon Walker at 11?
Yeah, I think
you have him higher.
I have him a lot higher on this list. Versus my big board, I should probably have him lower, especially because he's kind of what we thought he was going to be. He's a stout run defender.
I don't think he's rushing at all yet.
The pass rush win rate is below 10%. I think it's like 7.5. But the flashes and the high points of him are nuts. They're alien-like. And I really do think it's just time. Like, time is the only thing that's going to be in the way between him becoming a true all-around edge player that you can count on every single down in every single situation. Is he ever going to be a pass rusher like Myles Garrett or Von Miller or Nick Bosa? No, I don't think he's ever going to be that. But I do feel like he's going to become one of those players that is known as one of the best in the game at having all-around ability. He's not a specialist one way or I mean, like Cam Jordan actually immediately came to my mind as well, but I didn't want it to sound like I was praising guys like Nick Bosa and Von Miller and them, and then just be like, oh, he's lesser. He's like a Cam Jordan.
I think it's the type of player, though. Cam Jordan's it's a different kind of player.
Yeah. So in the way Cam Jordan is known as a guy who is an all-around edge player, a fantastic pass rusher, a guy who could be good in run defense as well. I don't know if Trayvon Walker's going to be this double-digit sack guy every year, but like somewhere between 7 to 9 sacks a season, and somebody who's going to give you their all in run defense as well with the freaky length and athleticism. I have him a lot higher on this list. I think I had him 14th on my big board.
Okay.
And I have him way higher just because I've already seen him. I've already seen those flashes of athletic ability be too much for NFL tackles, which has been great to see. So that's where I got him.
All right, 10 through 6 for me. This is where I knock out the receivers. Drake London at 10. Mm-hmm. Zion Johnson at 9. Maybe that's a surprise.
I have Zion. I had Zion at 16. I think Zion's struggled in pass protection, but I think he's been good as a run blocker, which is what we thought that he would be. I just wonder if he's ever going to be a fantastic pass blocker. We'll see.
I also look at, though, who he's played with since Slater got hurt, right? Or not Slater, but they've had right tackle problems, too. They've had so many problems on the offensive line where I try to, evaluate in a nutshell. This guy doesn't have a ton of help on that line.
That's fair.
And he's put into a bad spot. And, I don't know. So Zion at 9.
Hey, go off, King.
Garrett Wilson at 8.
Okay.
Chris Olave at 7.
Wow, okay.
Jordan Davis at 6.
So,
now, the wide receiver stuff's like a very obvious overreaction by me. I'm not saying I'm doing it for the show. I'm just saying it's easier for wide receivers to produce early, and they have. That's why they got the bump here. If I went back and did the draft today again, would I take Chris Olave over Garrett Wilson and Drake London? No, I wouldn't. But for this exercise, I'm saying that Chris Olave absolutely deserves the bump for what he's done, how consistently he gets open. He looks awesome. Mm-hmm. So Drake and Garrett Wilson are victims of offenses that don't throw the football. And to their credit, it's kind of shocking. Drake London still has over 300 yards, and so does Garrett Wilson. They actually have they're 1 yard apart. So, hell of a show today between Marvel and then the classic fire trucks.
Somebody tweeted at us and was like, who, there we go. Marvel literally hears the sirens. I don't know.
Oh, no. It's, all right. So congrats to everybody for already hitting bingo 30 minutes into the show. No, but I think where it's unfair for Drake London and Garrett Wilson is that their offenses don't throw the football efficiently right now. And now Chris Olave has dealt with some crap since Jameis Winston got hurt. There's no doubt about that. So credit to him for getting through it. But I think all three of those wide receivers have flashed like you had hoped. That's why they are this high for me. The fact that they are all in the top 10 is very impressive. But Jordan Davis at 6 is probably the conversation I think you'd want to have here.
Yeah, I mean, well, I kind of highlighted. I mean,
yeah,
Jordan Davis is playing as well as you could want him to.
Yeah, he looks great. And he's on a great defense, and the Eagles, because of the luxury they are in, which credit to them that they've built this themselves, they have a great roster and a great defense where Jordan Davis doesn't have to come in and be Superman right away. He can handle a work share that they think is manageable for him as a rookie in the NFL, and how they get the highest effectiveness out of him with that snap count. So I don't hold that against him. And I know Eagles fans are clamoring for more of him, and it's probably time to take some of the training wheels off and let him go a little more. But Jordan Davis has been a total mammoth and a complete difference maker when he's on the football field.
Yep. No, he's been great.
Who do you got?
I got Evan Neal at 10. I had him at number 5 overall on the big board, so I can't be too low on him because I do still believe that he's fantastic, right? A career is not made in 7 games. I know he's struggled a lot, but I do believe in him, and I still believe in the talent. I get Jameson Williams at number 9. I think I had him at 8 on the big board. I can stop guessing, and I can actually just look it up like a real podcast.
This is a professional podcast,
folks. But
if you're still listening right now,
I Jameson
we
at
love
7.
you.
I had Jameson at 7.
Okay.
Kyle Hamilton, I have at 8, simply because of what we talked about before. You are asking him to do so much. I still believe in the high-end talent that he has. I believe he could be a single high guy for you. Of course, his best stuff is going to come at the line of scrimmage because he's an alien with his length and he can tackle. So that was always going to be his best place early on. I believe he still has that potential ability to be a good slot defender, to be a guy who could play on the back end for you as a single high safety. But yes, right now, those two things are a work in progress. It's a little bit of a struggle. You like what he's doing in the box a little bit better. I get Ike Ekwonu at number 7.
Okay.
I had Ike 3rd, I think, out of Cross, Neal, and Ekwonu, but they were basically all right next to each other in the top 7 on the big board. And then number 6, I have Charles Cross. Charles Cross is my top rated offensive tackle. He's been able to come in, and though he has struggled in run blocking a little bit, again, that's what we expected of him. That's what the profile said. Pass protection, he's looked really nice. Hasn't looked elite, but he's looked really nice. And especially for a rookie, when you put that context into it, him coming in right away, I think he has been as advertised of what you would want of an offensive tackle.
I mean, I love what I've seen from Cross and Ickey. Love what I've seen. I don't know if we'll transition there yet, but I think it's all fair takes. I actually think, like, you had Cross tackle 1. I think you should even take that and run with it higher. I think he should be in your top 5. I think he's been great. I think that's something to stand on. I think he's been awesome. So,
all right. Well, top 5?
Top 5. We're going to have some similar players in here. 5 for me is Aiden Hutchinson. 4 is Kayvon Thibodeau.
Okay.
3 is Charles Cross.
Okay. All right.
2 is Ike Ekwonu. And number 1 is Sauce Gardner.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
With a beaming smile on my face, if you're listening audio only, number 1 is Sauce Gardner. Trevor,
we can hear you say that through the smile. They didn't need you to tell them that.
I mean, pride and joy of gangrene, Sauce Gardner. Trevor, who do you got here?
5, I have Aiden Hutchinson. And I'm going to be honest. We did this exercise for It's Just Football and the It's Just Football show. And we only did this with the top 5. And so I still had Trayvon Walker, obviously, in my top 5 because he was drafted in the top 5 and we were restricting it to the top 5. So I have Walker at number 4. In all honesty, I should at least have Walker and Cross flipped, given where I had them on the big board. So I should at least have Charles Cross at 4 and Trayvon Walker at 6.
No rules. Flip them right now. Charles Cross is at 4.
Yeah. It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
Literally, whatever we want.
I'm putting Cross at 4 because I got to stay true to my big board. I can't really go back on it too hard. I had Trayvon Walker outside of the top 10, and even though I've liked what I've seen, and I've liked him a little bit more than Aiden, I'll put him at 6. So I got Charles Cross at number 4. I had Kayvon Thibodeau. He's my number 1 edge rusher at number 3. I have Derek Stingley Jr. at number 2. He was my number 1 overall prospect. I can't get in a situation where, he's disappointing from what I've seen from him. He's playing a position, we've already talked about it, where this isn't what he was supposed to be doing. So I cannot fault him too much for that. And then Sauce Gardner, without a question. Number one on this big board, I knew that we would have the same list. When you look at Sauce's stats so far this year, they're incredible. This is a rookie corner doing this. 88.4 coverage grade, which is nuts. He's been targeted 40 times. He's only allowed 17 catches, and yet he's got 10 forced incompletions. Just a 51.1 quarterback rating when targeted. He's the truth, man. He's unbelievable. Congrats to the Jets. Congrats to you. He's been absolutely fantastic, and he deserves to be number one on a rankings list.
Yeah, he was my 7th overall player in the draft, and he bumps up to number one here. It's been impressive, and to see him do that against Cortland Sutton. I mean, it won them the game, by the way. Like he literally won them the game. So we're at that point with Sauce. Icky at 2 for me.
Yeah, talk to me about Icky.
I think Icky had a slow start. Icky's October has been insane. Icky looks so good in October. He hasn't allowed a sack, I think, since week 2, but more importantly, he's been consistent in pass pro in October. I thought he looked so good run blocking against both the 49ers and the Bucks. He's incredibly athletic getting to the second level. We're seeing that bully ball. And I mean, part of this too is that Icky was my top player in the draft, like you with Stingley. It's funny we both had our top players from the draft as number 2 in this exercise. You just have so much belief in their talent that when you see the flashes that they've both shown this year, you go, yeah, they're going to model that more consistently, and they're going to be the players that we expected them to be. Maybe the most interesting one for us in this is Hutch, because we never really talk about Hutch. Mm-hmm. And you and I both had, correct me if I'm wrong, had Thibodeau over him.
Yes.
And some people listening to this might go, well, Hutchinson has 4.5 sacks. Thibodeau only has 1. Why do you guys still have Thibodeau over him? Thibodeau, I think, has actually looked like the more consistent pass rusher, not just sacks.
Without a doubt. I've got their numbers up right here. Hutchinson, 60.0 pass rush grade compared to Thibodeau's, which is 69. Hutchinson has 19 pressures. Thibodeau only has 9, but there's been some snap count there. Oh, I'm also grading. Sorry. I should have said this. I forgot this is with a stipulation I have on this. This is Thibodeau since week 5. So, like, when he's been fully healthy, the last 3 games, the last 3 weeks, this is what we're judging him off of. Pass rush win rate for Hutchinson, it's just 11.1. For Thibodeau, it is 16.1.
That's jarring. That's like borderline mediocre to very good difference.
Right. Yeah. Level. So that's the major difference for me is Thibodeau's a better pass rusher. And it took a while for Aiden to kind of figure it out in college football. They were moving him around a lot. And this last year, he absolutely went crazy, and you love to see it. And I'm absolutely not taking that away from him. But I'll also say I think this pass game was rushing a lot more from a 2-point stance, and that seemed to be what he was most comfortable with when he was at Michigan. So I am very curious to see if they continue to allow him to be a 2-point stance rusher for the rest of the season, and how much that pass rush win rate is going to go up. Because I think it is for him playing a more natural, comfortable stance and position. So right now it's still easy for me to say I'd take Thibodeau over Aiden Hutchinson, but I would like to see what a full year of him as a 2-point guy ends up yielding.
No doubt. And you just look at those defenses right now. I mean, Aiden's kind of out there and with a unit that they can't get it right. They cannot get it right. And you look at what Wink has done with the Giants, and KT has talent next to him. Dexter Lawrence is really freaking good, man.
Dude, Dexter Lawrence is playing so well this year.
Like, that stuff matters. So, I mean, that really, really does matter. One note on me for the top 5 as well. Charles Cross was my 9th overall player. Gets bumped up to 3 here.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, coaching, it goes a long way. It just, I look at Seattle and I'm just so impressed. The
not just him, but Abe Lucas too.
The task of starting 2 rookie tackles, I think, is up there with some of the hardest tasks we've seen coaches have to deal with in the NFL this year. And Seattle's doing it and winning and scoring a lot of points. It means something.
That's true. It's true. Let's talk about, we'll get into some of the guys who were not in the top 20 that maybe could have got a shout out, could have been in that group if we were expanding our stipulations here for this exercise. But Connor, while you look that up, we get a new sponsor for today's podcast. Brothrow, BROTHROW. THRO, spelled exactly how you think it is. If you ever bet on sports with your friends, that's basically what this is. BroThrow is the only sports betting platform that lets you bet directly with your friends in all 50 states, okay? No fees, no juice, no middleman. BroThrow is not a sports book, and not paying juice on the lines saves you a ton of money over time. BroThrow is a social platform. That's what they're classified as. Take control of who you bet with. Know who's on the other side of every bet that you create or accept. It's easy to create or accept bets, easily track your profits and payments, and always see the value of a bet when you make it. You don't have to deposit money directly into any BroThrow account. Bettors pay each other completely directly. Connect your Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Skrill, Strike, whatever. Betting $11 to win $10 stinks. Nobody wants to do it. With BroThrow, you bet $10, you win $10. Throw out your first bet. Go to brothrow.com/PFF and use the promo code PFF. BroThrow is absolutely free to sign up for. Cut out the middleman. Start betting on BroThrow. The way that I explain it to people who ask about it, it's as if Connor and I were sitting on a couch. Classic. Just goes, hey, bet you $5 the Jets win. Connor goes, all right, bet you $5 they don't, or other way around probably in this scenario. But that's it. That's literally what it is. You just
you had it.
You are doing that with people all across the country. So it's a really cool concept. Go check it out. brothrow.com/PFF. And you guys have heard me talk about them before, but our sponsor Symbol has their best offer yet for new users right now. Symbol is offering $500 risk-free deposit to new users who join the stock market for sports. When you sign up using the promo code NFLSC, your first deposit comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. How about that? If you were hesitant on joining or simply haven't yet, now you can do it with a risk-free deposit. As a reminder, Symbol, that's SIMBULL, lets you trade pro and college teams like stocks and even earn cash dividend payouts when your teams win. Symbol is a peer-to-peer market that took the thrill of sports betting and turned it into the stock market to give fans a way to speculate on favorite pro and college teams. Now you can join with that $500 money back guarantee. Download the Symbol app on the iOS store for Apple devices. That's once again SIMBULL in the App Store. Use the promo code NFLSE to get a risk-free deposit up to $500. Whether you want to invest in up-and-coming teams like the Giants or the new top dog in the NFL, the Buffalo Bills, Symbol allows you to buy and sell teams like stocks to profit from your own sports knowledge. You got to love that. Connor, as we kind of get back to this exercise, we limited what we did to just the players who were picked in the top 20, but is there anybody that really stands out that you'd say, okay, if we open this all up to just my top 20 from the entire class, some guys who would sneak in there?
Ooh, that's a good question. Top 20 from my rankings. So I was going to go all the way deep and go Tariq Woolen, who was not in my top 20.
Right. I mean, we would probably put Tariq Woolen here in the top 20. I think you have to, for as well as he's playing at a big
Well, I mean, I had Linderbaum 5th overall, and I think he's been phenomenal for the Ravens.
Ooh, you had him at 5?
Yeah, I had him at 5, and I think that, man, he's been excellent for them.
Would you have put Breece Hall in there, top 20?
Now? Yeah.
Because like Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Dameon Pierce, right? Like those, if they were available in this exercise that we're doing here.
It's a good question. Probably. I mean, I had him at 30, so...
That's pretty close, you know?
He was. I know it's taboo for running backs to be in a top 32 on a big board in this era of draft analysis.
This is safe space. This is safe space for you.
Had him at 30, so yeah. I mean, and the dude was one of the best running backs in football before he got hurt. So absolutely. I'm trying to think of some deeper cuts here in the top 20.
Abraham Lucas has been playing really well. Let me look at my big board.
Yeah.
Oh, that
was a miss for me.
I'd probably put well, yeah, it was a miss for me too. I didn't think he had the strength profile. I got scared of like, oh, you Pac-12 competition, which I try not to do a lot, but beyond just scouting the helmet, if you will, there is something to conference brand of football. And for the Pac-12 specifically, some offensive linemen, I'm not saying all of them, but sometimes Pac-12 offensive linemen can be a little bit lighter in the pants, don't exactly have the strength to anchor when they get to the NFL. They struggle with that against guys who are of starting caliber. So I do think that goes into it. I had George Karlaftis at number 12 on my big board.
Okay. Item 28th.
I mean, he's been good.
He's been fine, right?
I think I would probably have him back end of the 20, back end of the teens here. 18, 19, 20, something like that. George Pickens, I had at number 16. George Pickens has been good. I'd probably find a way to weasel him in there to make sure that I got the victory lap.
Pickett taking shots to him has shown how good he is. I mean, Trubisky was kind of hesitant to do that with him.
I don't know if there's anybody else I'd put in there.
No, I think that
outside of somebody who would just be like vaulted up like a Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some that...
That's about it.
No, that sums it up pretty well. I mean, I think back to... Man, I'm just looking at my board, because I have not looked at my rankings, honestly, since...
I haven't either.
Since the draft, so I'm just like looking at some of these. Obviously, there's plenty that you miss on and some you hit on. Dude, I had Quay Walker 74th. I cannot believe he went in the top 25 picks.
I mean, where did I have Quay? I had him 52.
Dude, he went in the first round.
I was
22nd.
So speaking of 22nd, I had Devin Lloyd at 22nd.
Who's been baller.
Good transition right there, Connor. Appreciate it. Good setup. That was a good lob.
Layup, dude.
I think I'd probably get Devin Lloyd in there now that I'm looking at it.
Where did I have Devin Lloyd?
Were you way lower on him than me?
No, I had him 13th.
Oh, okay. So he would be in there for you then. He'd be in the top 20 for you.
I don't know how I missed that one.
Yeah. Well, he's up there. He's definitely up there.
It's a fun exercise because it keeps you in touch with, what is it early? Yeah. Like, is this a purposely dramatic show filled with hyperbole at times? To an extent,
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to make show. Money. Like, it's fun. But it is very important to... Because if we did the show at the end of September... Like, Icky didn't have a good September, right? Like, you look at things like there's plenty of guys that start to turn it. Kayvon Thibodeau didn't play.
Right.
But then you give them October, and it's like, whoa, man, starting to turn the corner. So what will it look like for, maybe they do adjust with Stingley, and Stingley gets to play more man and has more opportunities to take the ball. Things like that.
Your lips to God's ears, I hope. Just play the man in man coverage. I don't know. We need divine intervention. We gotta pray about it. We gotta manifest, and one day Lovey's gonna walk into the the facility. He's like, I had a revelation.
I listened to the NFL Stock Exchange.
I had a dream last night while I was listening to the NFL Stock Exchange going to bed, as I do every night. Big shout out Lovey, huge sex addict for the pod.
Oh man.
And he's like, I gotta play Stingley in man coverage. These guys really convinced me. So I don't know. It's fun to look back on it. It's fun to, like you said, look back on the big board. I haven't looked back on the big board since this summer, since maybe middle of the summer, when I was looking back at some draft classes and looking at some numbers of where I had them versus my board. So this is a good exercise to kind of dive back into it. And it is funny, as I was talking out loud, I was like, you know what? Probably gonna actually have this guy a little time. You just remember what your stance was and what you thought of these players going into the draft. And so this is fun to do. I enjoyed this. This is good stuff.
Nothing makes me laugh like us spending not days, not weeks, but literally months to make these boards and do these evaluations. And then as soon as the draft ends, you're like, I don't care about this. Like... It's unreal.
I keep them. Do you keep all of them?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Which was interesting for me because I used to keep them on my BR drive, and even before I left BR, we were migrating, so I had to save all these things.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me regret. Not that I still couldn't do this. I'm just honestly too lazy to do it. I wish I made a printout binder for every year I did the draft. I should have. But also, I hate clutter and things. I don't need 7 binders or whatever just laying around this apartment. So that's part of it too. I find opening up the Google sheet and being like, okay, here it all is. It's it's a tricky one.
So speaking of keeping things, on a Google Drive, I actually just pulled it up right now to make sure that I still have it. I have the first mock draft that I ever wrote.
That's amazing. I do not.
2012.
That's incredible.
I have an entire first round mock draft here, and this is something that we should incorporate on the show at some point.
I would like to at least make it half of an episode.
Okay.
Like
all
one
right.
day when we're doing a mailbag, we can open up with the mock draft.
Maybe next Thursday. Maybe we'll do a mailbag episode. Maybe we'll do we do need to do a mid-season like big board update show.
We do. I think November is a good time for that.
Okay.
It's traditionally when I've always updated the summer one. Yeah. Right? November. Like to redo the stock exchange board?
Yeah. Or
Yep.
just our own, like talk to the people about like our own top 50s, like how much things are changing. And yeah, maybe we could, I guess, update the show big board as well. I think that would be a good exercise into doing that.
Dude, I can't wait to see Michael Floyd and Bruce Irvin and Quentin Copels in your 2012 mock draft.
Brother, I'm just scrolling through it now. It's beautiful. And people might be listening like, oh, read it off. I can't. I need you guys to come back to the pod. Need to tease it a little bit.
Sneaky good draft with some horrible picks littered in.
Oh, dude. It's wonderful.
Like, it's crazy. This draft, like, you got the Trent Richardson at 3. I don't want to give away that show. We'll save it all for that show because I cannot wait. That's the most excited I've been to read a mock draft in years. It's your 2012 mock draft. I'm so glad you still have that.
And it's gonna shame the shit out of me. You know what the best part about it is, Connor? I have blurbs for every one of them.
That I cannot wait. I
have an intro. I have blurbs. You got to realize, at this point in my life, I had just decided that I wanted to do this for a living.
Yeah.
Like I had just decided that I wanted to go to broadcasting school, that I wanted to pursue this as a career. So I had loved and listened and followed the NFL draft for years and years and years, but this is the first time when I went, okay, let me see if I could do this. Like, let's have some fun doing this. So
that's really funny because that was the first year I ever did anything with the draft as well. I remember I was writing for a site that no longer exists anymore. I think it was called Jets Draft. It was
straight to the point. No BS involved.
It was something like that, and it was like a subsite of a network at the time, right? Like whatever network ran those sites. So because of that, this is like the age of like bloggers actually getting some access, not much. I was a college kid, same year, maybe. Let me make sure. I got on the Mel Kiper conference call that he does.
Oh, yes.
With media. And mind you, I'm like in my dumpy apartment in Albany, like on the phone. I can't even imagine what cell phone I had back then. I did not have an iPhone. Whatever cell phone I had back then. Like waiting.
It was a flip phone.
Probably was. To ask Mel Kiper
You got to ask him stuff?
Yes. I got a question. And I remember, so it was the 2013 draft. So I was a junior in college. And I asked him about Jamie Collins. Because Jamie Collins played for Southern Miss, who did not win a game that year. So I was like, and like back then, like the draft landscape was totally different, right? Like now you go on the internet and you could Twitter search a player and there is somebody that is posting clips of that player, even if they're a D3 player. Like that's where the draft
100%.
coverage. Back then, like, I cared about, number one, being on a conference call that Mel Kiper was answering media questions. I'm just some idiot college kid. I'm sure there was actual real writers on the call. And I'm like, I got to ask how you evaluate Jamie Collins, like on a winless Southern Miss team, small school player.
Great question.
And he ate it up. Like, he went full Mel. Like, 8 million facts and why Jamie Collins was great and all these things. And yeah, dude, it's cool talking about, we never do this, talking about our roads into this space. It's wild to think 10 years later we're sitting here. Dude, I don't ever take it for granted, obviously. It's unbelievable.
No, it's crazy. Now you're better than Mel Kiper. It's crazy. It's crazy. Dude, no, Mel is absolutely the godfather of
the
this
unnecessary
entire industry.
hate. It is, let me make something very clear. It is not cool to hate on Mel Kiper. I cannot express that enough.
For the draft takes.
For the internet that likes to dunk on Mel. I mean, we all have our bad takes. Don't get me wrong.
You do have better hair than him now, though.
Thank you.
You know, I think that his hair is iconic, but as is yours. So,
I mean, this is the hair podcast, dude.
You know,
we know that. Come on, look at that flow.
You know,
we did sell out. We did both get haircuts after all of our all our big chest pumping all summer.
We gotta get it. We gotta get out of here. Before we do, we gotta talk to you about our friends over at No House Advantage. They're changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy platform available today. You pick where you play in pick'em contests versus other people for a shot at winning $250,000 in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every single day. You can also test your skills versus the house and 20 times your entry if you hit all your picks right. Bet on up to 5 player prop over-unders or individual player matchups across every single sporting league, NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, even NASCAR. Sign up today. Use the promo code STOCK, STOCK, at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app in the App Store to get your first deposit match up to $25. Make sure to check out No House Advantage today and experience daily fantasy sports redefined, because it's not about how you play, but also where you play. And you guys definitely won't want to miss out on this. Man, Symbol, No House Advantage, Bro Throw. These companies are out here just like giving you guys an opportunity to get in the game. We got money back guarantees. We got first deposits. We got peer-to-peer smack talk betting. It's a beautiful thing. Honestly, check out some of these companies that we're promoting here. We're not just promoting them as giant sellouts ourselves. These are really cool ideas. These are really cool companies doing some really cool stuff. So
this podcast is just a hobby. We're day traders. We've always made this clear.
Yeah, of course. Right. Crypto bros, get back in the comments. I want to see 60 comments on this video before it hits 2 hours in. That's what I want. Pump up the algorithm.
How do they all start, all those comments? I didn't know about this at the time.
No, they're always, all of them start out with like, I was pretty skeptical about crypto initially.
Oh, no. That's it every time. Oh, my God.
Hey, it gets me.
Now all my money's gone because I invested in it.
Well, hey, we're coming back. I don't have anything in crypto, but...
Christ.
That's what I needed. I need crypto to tank, and then we'll get in on it, and then we'll be rich, and then we'll just take the podcast and just elevate it to a whole different level. Then it could truly be the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. Appreciate everybody listening. Yeah. Appreciate everybody getting in on the exercise. Of course, we would love to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts on our revised big board rankings that we had here on the show. Let us know what you liked. Let us know why we're frauds. Anything. At Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers on Twitter. You can also hit us up on Instagram as well. That's it for us this week, but we're going to be back on a Monday morning to give you everything on what matters most from what we're going to see in the NFL in Week 8. For Connor Rogers, I'm Trevor Sikkema. We'll see you then.